Starting February 1st, 2026, driving in California quietly changes forever. What used to be a quick warning or a shrugged-off ticket now carries real financial risk, sometimes stacking into thousands of dollars before you realize it. Police are enforcing harder, cameras are watching constantly, and small habits are suddenly expensive mistakes. Many drivers will not see it coming because nothing looks different on the road. Same streets, same lights, same routines. The difference is how closely every move is measured, recorded, and penalized. If you drive daily, this affects you immediately. Understanding it now prevents shock, stress, penalties, and suspensions.
Number 1. Active enforcement begins statewide. Starting February 1st, 2026, California shifts from warning-based traffic stops to active enforcement across multiple violations. Officers are no longer encouraged to issue courtesy warnings for behaviors like rolling stops, late signal use, or minor speeding. Instead, citations are written immediately, even for first-time encounters. This change follows statewide safety data showing consistent increases in intersection collisions, pedestrian injuries, and distraction-related crashes over the past 3 years, especially in urban corridors and school-adjacent streets. The enforcement change is not a single new law, but a coordinated policy direction involving the California Highway Patrol and local agencies. Departments received funding and directives to increase visible patrols, shorten tolerance thresholds, and prioritize moving violations over equipment warnings. That means actions drivers previously brushed off, such as drifting over lane markers or accelerating through yellow lights, are now formal ticket triggers. Consistency, not discretion, is the goal outlined in internal guidance. For drivers, this shift requires immediate habit changes. Slowing slightly below posted limits, making complete stops, and signaling earlier are no longer optional safety suggestions, but enforcement expectations. Because citations now stack with administrative fees, insurance impacts, and point accumulation, a single stop can become financially painful. The key adjustment is mindset. Drive assuming every intersection, camera zone, and patrol unit is operating in strict mode every day. This approach applies statewide, regardless of city size, neighborhood history, or time of day, creating uniform expectations for commuters, rideshare drivers, delivery workers, and occasional visitors alike across California.
Number 2. Automated cameras change the game. Automated enforcement is expanding rapidly, changing how tickets are issued and contested. Cities are activating red light, speed, bus lane, and school zone cameras with lower activation thresholds. These systems capture plate images, timestamps, and speed data, generating citations without an officer present. Authorities cite collision reduction studies showing fewer severe injuries after camera deployment. For drivers, the shift means violations are detected consistently, including early morning and late night hours when patrol presence is lighter. Unlike traditional stops, camera tickets arrive by mail and include strict response deadlines. Ignoring them can trigger escalating penalties, added fees, or registration holds. Some jurisdictions allow online reviews of images, while others require formal hearings. Accuracy debates continue, yet standards for calibration and signage are tightening. Drivers should learn where cameras operate, understand posted limits, and budget time to respond promptly, because missed deadlines often multiply the original fine. Practical steps reduce risk immediately. Map known camera corridors on daily routes and set speed alerts slightly below limits. Treat yellow lights as stop cues, complete full stops before crosswalk lines, and watch bus lanes during restricted hours. Keep registration addresses current to avoid lost notices. If cited, review evidence quickly and decide whether to pay or contest. These habits turn automated enforcement from a surprise expense into a manageable, predictable part of everyday driving. Consistency matters because repeated minor violations can stack points, raise insurance costs, and strain budgets faster than one serious mistake ever would for households managing tight monthly expenses. Number 3. School zones and pedestrian areas under pressure. California has expanded school zone and pedestrian safety enforcement as part of the 2026 crackdown. Speed limits near schools, parks, and senior crossings are enforced more aggressively with lower tolerance margins. Studies from state safety offices link small speed reductions to sharp drops in injury severity. Officers and cameras now focus on pickup and drop-off hours, but enforcement applies all day. Drivers who treat these zones casually risk immediate citations and added penalty assessments. Signage upgrades make boundaries clearer for approaching motorists. Penalties escalate quickly in protected areas because multiple rules overlap. A single stop can include speeding, failure to yield, and distracted driving counts. Each carries base fines, court fees, and points that raise insurance premiums. Local data shows repeat violations cluster around familiar routes, not highways. That pattern explains why enforcement targets neighborhood streets. For families, costs add up fast, turning a brief lapse into months of higher expenses. Commuters often underestimate how quickly penalties compound after citations during routine daily travel patterns. To adapt, drivers should reset habits near any marked crossing. Reduce speed early, scan sidewalks, and pause fully before turns. Silence phones and plan routes to avoid rush periods near schools. Parents and rideshare drivers face higher exposure, so consistency matters. Reviewing local speed maps and enforcement notices helps anticipate changes. Small adjustments repeated daily lower risk, protect vulnerable road users, and keep budgets stable under strict enforcement. Awareness and patience replace haste as the safest default for urban and suburban California drivers statewide. Number 4. Points, insurance, and the hidden cost spiral. California's point system becomes more punishing under heightened enforcement because minor tickets accumulate faster than before. Each moving violation adds points that remain for years, and thresholds trigger license actions. Reaching 4 points in 12 months, 6 in 24 months, or 8 in 36 months can label a driver negligent. With more tickets issued for routine behavior, reaching those limits is easier, even without reckless intent or crashes. Insurance consequences follow quickly once points post. Carriers review driving records at renewal and after violations, adjusting premiums based on risk models. One ticket can raise rates modestly, but multiple citations compound increases over several cycles. Some insurers apply surcharges immediately, while others remove discounts. For commercial drivers, points can affect employment eligibility, driving assignments, and background screenings. Practical defenses start with prevention and record awareness. Drivers should check motor vehicle records annually, understand point values, and complete traffic school when eligible to mask a violation. Space out driving errands, avoid peak enforcement windows, and prioritize calm decision-making in intersections. If cited, respond promptly, track deadlines, and compare contest options. Managing points deliberately protects licenses, keeps insurance affordable, and reduces stress under strict enforcement conditions statewide. Consistent habits matter because small mistakes repeated daily create outsized consequences. Slowing slightly, signaling early, and yielding fully prevent silent accumulation. Planning routes and schedules lowers exposure, helping drivers maintain clean records despite constant monitoring statewide. These adjustments support safer roads while preserving mobility and finances for households navigating California's evolving rules daily statewide. Number 5. Repeat violations trigger steeper penalties. California is increasing penalties for repeat and high-risk violations tied to distracted driving, excessive speed, and failure to yield. While base fines look manageable, added assessments multiply totals quickly. Enforcement data shows repeat citations often occur on familiar routes. Officers now document behavior patterns, not isolated moments. That record influences penalties, court options, and eligibility for traffic school, making repeated minor errors financially severe. Distraction rules now extend beyond phones to touchscreens, mounted devices, and in-vehicle displays. Brief glances count when linked to lane drift or delayed reactions. Speed enforcement also tightens through calibrated tolerances and rolling patrols. Exceeding limits downhill or during merges still qualifies. Yield violations at crosswalks and bike lanes draw special focus because injury risk spikes at low speeds. Strict documentation supports higher penalties for patterns. Drivers can reduce exposure by simplifying routines, program navigation before moving, silence alerts, and keep hands off screens. Maintain extra following distance to avoid rushed maneuvers. On hills, ease braking and watch speed creep. At intersections, pause, scan, and yield fully. Track citations and consider traffic school strategically. Consistency protects licenses and budgets as enforcement escalates. Small daily adjustments compound positively, preventing repeat flags and preserving flexibility for work, family schedules, and long commutes across the state. Awareness of routes, timing, and habits turns compliance into routine behavior rather than constant stress, allowing drivers to adapt smoothly without sacrificing efficiency or safety under evolving rules enforced daily by local and state agencies with uniform expectations statewide for motorists. Number 6. Court fees turn small tickets into big bills. California traffic fines rarely stop at the base amount printed on a citation. Under current enforcement, court assessments, state surcharges, and administrative fees inflate totals quickly. A modest violation can double or triple once processed. Data from county courts shows many drivers underestimate final costs because fees are applied after conviction, not at roadside. With enforcement increasing, more drivers encounter this financial shock unexpectedly. Payment timelines add pressure. Courts set strict deadlines, and missed payments trigger late penalties, collection actions, or license holds. Some counties add installment fees for payment plans, raising totals further. Failure to appear or respond escalates consequences beyond money, affecting registration renewals and driving privileges. These systems operate automatically, leaving little room for negotiation once deadlines pass. Speed and organization matter as much as driving behavior. Drivers should treat every citation as a financial event requiring planning. Read notices immediately, mark deadlines, and explore payment options early. Budget for fees beyond the fine and confirm eligibility for traffic school or reductions. Keep copies of all correspondence and receipts. Avoid delaying decisions because hesitation increases costs. Building a small buffer for unexpected tickets can prevent hardship. Staying proactive turns an intimidating process into a manageable one. Awareness of the full cost structure helps drivers make informed choices, avoid compounding penalties, and maintain control under strict enforcement conditions across California's courts and agencies statewide. Number 7. Technology expands police reach everywhere. California law enforcement is expanding technology use to monitor traffic behavior beyond traditional patrol methods. Automated plate readers, dash-mounted analytics, and mobile data terminals allow officers to identify violations faster and with greater accuracy. These tools flag expired registration, prior violations, and repeat patterns in real time. As a result, stops are more targeted and less random. Drivers who rely on low-visibility hours or quiet streets face the same scrutiny as those on major roads. This technology also changes how evidence is recorded. Video, speed data, and timestamps create detailed records that support citations and limit discretionary warnings. Officers can review footage instantly, reducing disputes at the roadside. For drivers, this means explanations matter less than compliance. Data-driven enforcement prioritizes measurable behavior like speed consistency, lane position, and signal timing. Once logged, records can influence future stops and court outcomes. Adapting requires awareness and routine discipline. Keep vehicles compliant, from registration to lights. Drive smoothly, maintain lanes, and signal early. Avoid sudden maneuvers that draw attention in analytic systems. Plan routes with enforcement zones in mind and allow extra travel time. These habits reduce digital flags in interactions. Technology does not rest, so consistency matters every trip. Treat every drive as recorded and reviewable.
This mindset lowers risk, preserves privacy, and supports safer roads, while helping drivers navigate constant monitoring without anxiety or surprise costs under modern enforcement statewide.
Number 8. Rural and urban drivers face the same rules. California's enforcement push removes the old divide between rural highways and dense city streets. Officers are instructed to apply identical standards regardless of location, traffic volume, or population size. That means quiet county roads, farming routes, and mountain passes receive the same attention as downtown corridors. Speed, lane discipline, and signaling are measured consistently, ending assumptions that enforcement relaxes outside metro areas. Crash data shows serious injuries occur frequently on rural roads, driving this uniform approach. For rural drivers, habits formed over years create risk under strict enforcement. Rolling through empty intersections, passing slow vehicles casually, or exceeding limits on long straightaways now draw citations. Urban drivers face similar pressure in residential zones and mixed-use streets. Uniform enforcement means familiarity offers no buffer. Officers and cameras treat every location as high priority, especially where emergency response times are longer and collisions more severe. Adjusting requires a reset wherever you drive. Respect posted limits even when roads appear empty. Signal on every turn, check mirrors, and maintain steady speeds. Plan extra time for long rural trips and avoid shortcuts through small towns with posted reductions. For city travel, slow early near neighborhoods and crossings. Thinking of every road as actively monitored reduces surprise stops. Consistent behavior protects drivers statewide, creating predictable expectations whether commuting daily or traveling occasionally across California's varied landscapes and communities. This consistency supports safety, fairness, and budgeting for drivers adapting to evolving enforcement everywhere across the state.
Number 9. License suspensions become easier to trigger. Under intensified enforcement, license suspensions in California are triggered faster due to point accumulation, unpaid fines, and missed court actions. Drivers often associate suspension with serious offenses, yet administrative suspensions now stem from procedural issues. Multiple minor violations within a short period can push drivers past point thresholds before they realize it. Court systems communicate electronically, shortening grace periods and accelerating actions tied to records. Unpaid tickets and failure to appear carry heavy consequences. Even when fines feel manageable, missing a response deadline can activate suspension processes automatically. Once flagged, reinstatement requires fees, proof filings, and processing time that disrupts work and family routines. Commercial drivers and gig workers face amplified risk because driving eligibility directly affects income. Administrative efficiency, not leniency, defines the system, leaving little room for informal fixes after deadlines pass. Drivers should manage licenses proactively, monitor driving records, update addresses, and open mail promptly. Calendar every court date and payment deadline. If points rise, adjust driving exposure and seek traffic school when available. Avoid ignoring small notices because escalation is fast and costly. Keeping a clean procedural record matters as much as safe driving. Under strict enforcement, responsibility extends beyond the road to paperwork, timing, and follow-through. These habits prevent unexpected suspensions and preserve mobility in a system designed to act quickly and consistently statewide for all motorists. Number 10. Driving becomes a constant evaluation. California drivers are adjusting to enforcement that no longer relies on officer discretion or verbal warnings. The final shift is behavioral, not legal. Driving is treated as a regulated activity measured continuously, not a casual task. Every trip now carries the same expectations, whether commuting, running errands, or traveling long distances. This mindset explains why penalties feel sudden. Systems assume full compliance at all times, removing the buffer drivers once relied on for minor lapses. Under this approach, personal accountability matters more than awareness of any single rule. Drivers must internalize consistency as a daily practice. Smooth acceleration, early braking, and deliberate signaling reduce exposure across enforcement methods. Routine vehicle checks prevent secondary stops. Planning routes and schedules lowers pressure that causes mistakes. These behaviors align with how modern traffic systems evaluate risk, focusing on patterns instead of moments. Long-term adaptation benefits drivers beyond avoiding tickets. Predictable habits lower stress, reduce collision risk, and stabilize expenses tied to insurance and fines. The enforcement environment rewards patience and preparation, not speed or improvisation. Viewing driving as a shared responsibility supports safer streets and fewer disruptions. California's approach signals permanence, not a temporary crackdown. Drivers who adapt early maintain control, mobility, and confidence, while others react under pressure. Consistency becomes the advantage that keeps daily travel efficient, lawful, and financially manageable statewide. These changes encourage mindful decision-making, reinforce respect for rules, and help communities reduce injuries, delays, and costs associated with preventable crashes on public roads across the entire state.
California's enforcement shift is not about fear, it is about consistency. Roads are being treated as shared spaces where predictable behavior matters more than speed or shortcuts. Cameras, points, fees, and administrative systems now work together, leaving little room for casual mistakes. Drivers who adjust early gain control, while those who delay face rising costs, paperwork, and interruptions to daily life. The rules apply everywhere, every day, regardless of traffic, location, or familiarity with the road. Adapting does not require perfection, it requires intention. Slowing slightly, stopping fully, signaling early, and staying organized with mail and deadlines change outcomes immediately. These habits protect licenses, insurance rates, and household budgets. They also reduce stress behind the wheel, replacing constant reaction with calm predictability. When driving becomes deliberate, enforcement fades into the background. If this breakdown helped you understand what is changing, support the channel by liking the video and subscribing for clear updates that actually matter. Share your experiences or questions in the comments so others can learn from them too. And if you want to stay ahead of future driving changes, fines, and enforcement trends, watch the next video on your screen now to stay informed, prepared, confident, compliant, statewide.